Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do another Azur Lane versus real life. This time we're going to do the French Battleship Richelieu, and this is going to be with her sister too, Jean Bart. So we're doing both because Jean Bart is essentially the same as Richelieu in almost every aspect, except for her service life differed a bit from that of Richelieu's. So I will have a small little bit about Jeanne at the end, if for those who are interested in her. Otherwise, Richelieu is pretty much the same as Jeanne is, and so you can kind of put them both together. If you want Jeanne, then she'll be at the end of the video, and I think she's probably gonna be like 5 minutes. But anyways, the bulk will be Richelieu, which is the lead ship. BB-15 is her whole designation. She was the largest ship ever built by the French Navy, and that includes up to today. Not even, I believe it's the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier that the French Navy has, matches her in size. So she was by far the largest ship that the French Navy ever built. Her main armament was 8 15-inch guns located in the forward position in front of the superstructure. As you can see by the blueprint here, she's got here her 8 guns here with none of the main guns in the rear, which is not a super typical design for a battleship. This actually takes after the Nelson class of the British Navy. And there's a reason for this. So here's the Nelson class. So again, she's got 9 guns in the forward firing position up in front of the superstructure. It's both a hindrance and it also helps. There's pros and cons to it. So one of the pros to this kind of setup is you shorten your citadel length, and the citadel is the portion of the ship where you store your ammunition and stuff like that. And if that part gets hit, it's catastrophic. That's what happened to the Hood. Hood, the citadel got punctured, the magazine detonated, and she went down in about 2 minutes. So with all the guns up front and none in the rear, it means you're free to only have this section as heavily armored as can be to protect the magazine powders and the stuff like that in the barbettes. Whereas the rear, you're left with smaller caliber guns and things like that. So it's not as a big target, for ships. They're mainly going to be going for these to disable these. So it also allows for a bit more heavy armor, things like that. So there's the plus for that. So going back to Richelieu here. The thing about Richelieu, though, is in her guns, there's another wall down the middle. So essentially these are dual guns in quad turret mounts, because the threat of losing one turret and you essentially lose half your armament. If she gets hit on one of these turrets, she's down 4 guns, which is a significant blow to a battleship. And so therefore they put a divider essentially in here, hoping that at least 2 of the guns can be salvaged should that happen. And you'll still have 6 guns instead of 8. That's the hope. She's got a secondary battery in the back here with smaller 6.1-inch guns and 3 triple turrets for vertical firing. And again, that is unique to this kind of ship where the main guns are at the front of the superstructure. The other con to that, though, is she cannot fire behind her. So if she's retreating or whatever, she's very limited to what she can do. These guns cannot fire behind and give retreating fire. So pros and cons to it, in her, what she can do and what she can't do. So oops. Let's do AA. She had 12 100 millimeter. This is all her initial build. So she had 12 100 millimeter AA guns in 6 twin mounts, limited to it with also a limited anti-service roll. So that would be twin mounts would be, I think, these ones here. So 2 force, yeah. So that would be those. in the twin mounts there. Because there is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So there's your twin mounts. And then she had she had 16 37 millimeter twin mounts. She also had 28 13.2 millimeter heavy machine guns. This is her anti-air armament. She was a fairly fast ship, coming in at 30 knots, which is not bad. That's equivalent to, I think that's equivalent to about Hood or like a South Dakota class for the U.S. So that's not a bad speed for a battleship. Her protection was a 13-inch sloped armor belt with a 6-inch deck and another secondary 6-inch deck below that to guard against any splinters or anything that might hit the deck above. The sloped armor belt is obviously 13 inches. That in itself is pretty thin. Nothing too spectacular about that. Good for range, but sacrificed armor for the speed. As a battleship, you can't have it all usually. So sacrificed armor for the speed. That would be my guess. And so yeah, 13-inch armor belt. Good for distance, but as soon as the ship closes in, she would pretty much be done in pretty quickly. So 2 ships were ordered of this class initially, Richelieu and Jean Bart, and later they ordered 2 more ships after Italy ordered 4 Littorio class battleships. So then France decided they needed to match Italy, and so they did place an order for 2 more ships, which were not ever built. However, these ships were pretty radically different in design, so I can go into a separate video for them. One was the Clemenceau, and the other was Gascon. Neither ship was completed, as I said, and they were both very different in design. In fact, I think it was Gascon, I believe, that went with the standard, more standard design of main gun in rear, main gun in front. And I think Clemenceau had also a different design. So those are pretty actually radically different designs than the initial Richelieu. So I think they would be more deserving of their own video. And of course, if you play Azur Lane, you know those. Gascon is a blueprint ship. Blueprint ships are ships that were laid down but never completed. And so that's what the blueprint ships are in the game. So when it comes to her service life, Richelieu actually barely made it out to sea trials before Germany conquered France. And so she made it to Africa, where she was under the control of Vichy France. She was sunk in a shallow harbor by British swordfish torpedo bombers, and she was later refloated to only be sunk again, this time by Ranger, the U.S. Carrier Ranger. Oh no, I'm sorry, got that confused with Jean Bart. She was actually attacked, and the follow-up attack failed. HMS Barham and HMS Resolution. Sorry, I had referred to my notes. Explosion in turret 2, and she was disabled in that turret during that consecutive attack. After the Allied landings in Africa and Vichy France surrendered quickly, Richelieu was taken control of by the U.S. and actually sent to the United States for retrofits and repairs. So there was a time when Richelieu was actually in New York Harbor, and there's a picture of her crossing underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. So that's Brooklyn Bridge. There's Richelieu and her quad guns in the front there, with one turret missing from that explosion in turret 2 that I talked about. So she did go to the U.S. though for repairs, rearmament, and refitment, and before she was redispatched to the British Home Fleet. and was under the control of the British for a while. We'll get into that in the game in a minute. She had her AA replaced with more modern AA, so she had 48 20 millimeter guns in single mounts. She had 14 quad 40 millimeter guns. And in 1944, she was sent to join the British Home Fleet. 1944, she went to the Pacific as well, where she joined in sorties with Saratoga and other against the Japanese Pacific fleets, and she also joined the British Pacific Fleet, where she did, like I said, sortie with aircraft carrier Saratoga and a few others, which is some of her voice lines in the game, actually. She was placed in reserves in 1958, scrapped in 1968. Now going into Jean Bart, as I said, it's going to be pretty brief. Her armament's the same, her belt line is the same, all that information is the same. The difference is their service. She was not complete when Germany took over. She only had one functioning turret, and so that was it. She made it to Africa. She was sunk by Massachusetts, USS Massachusetts, the battleship, was repaired, and then sunk again by USS Ranger. Later, she was fully repaired and armed with her 15-inch gun, same as Richelieu. Plans were in development or thought of to turn her into an aircraft carrier or some other type of thing, but they did decide to restore her to being a full battleship after that. So she actually was capable of 32 knots, not 30. So they did upgrade her propulsion system. And she served in the Suez Crisis and in various ceremonial duties. Jean Bart was put in reserves in 1957 and scrapped in 1970. So, onto the game type of thing now. Richelieu in game looks like that. The ship did have a pure white paint job. However, she did not have, obviously, all the adornments, things like that. That actually comes from her name. Richelieu actually was a cardinal in France, and which is some of her voice lines as well. So being a cardinal, she's got, obviously a lot of Roman Catholic symbolism and stuff like that here, and what she wears, and her book, and things like that. But it's interesting, and I had to look this up. What it had to do with anything, because one of her voice lines is let me go into the game now here, and stranger, click stranger, and she says the one you're talking to was once despisingly called many things, the calamity that brought on war, fearsome cardinal, maniac, and so this line is actually reference to Cardinal Richelieu, who was hated by his people for the taxes he levied for his central government. He wanted the monarchy and things like that. And he was also one of the causes for the 30-year war in France. And so, therefore, she has that voice line that says, she's despising called many things. And that is because Cardinal Richelieu was not well liked in France at that time. So, very interesting. She also has other voice lines where she mentions cooperating with Saratoga, and that goes back to, which is not in here. Actually, you actually have to sortie with Saratoga, and so those aren't in here, but she does have one where if you sortie her with Saratoga, she'll mention something like that they're together again or something like that. And she has other various voice lines. One specifically, I don't know if I'll be able to find it. Where she talks about the Eagle Union, the Royal Navy, of course. Templar Knights, the rest. Yeah, there we go. So, it's a bit, I get the feeling that Jean Bart would get along with them just fine. The reason for all this is obviously because they were sunk and stuff by Eagle Union and Royal Navy, which is why in the opening thing she does not yet trust the Royal Navy either, because they made it out of port, and then the Royal Navy and the Eagle Union both attacked them and sunk them. So there's a lot of distrust towards the Royal Navy and Eagle Union for those acts. Of course, she does end up being sent to the British Home Fleet, so that is probably a reference to the get along better with the Royal Navy, right there. So, because she was indeed part of the British Home Fleet. So yeah, that is the key. Jean Bart has her own specific lines too. I don't know if I can get them though. It's a very specific one, Jean Bart. So this is Jean Bart. Not nearly as elegant. I do agree. Let's go back to her home scan. So there you go, a little more rebellious. She doesn't have the white paint job. As Richelieu has. Less elegant. But let me see if I can get to her her archive. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I don't want this video to be too long. Just getting started. Cutting edge battleship. Pulling, of course, this is probably gonna be. Moody's But anyway, she has one where if she's with Massachusetts, she says something. She's actually not on bad terms with Massachusetts, so I think she says something friendly. Similar to Saratoga and Richelieu. But anyways, yeah, so that is the two French battleships of the Richelieu class. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this little learning experience. Pick something up about them. Actually, let me make sure there's nothing in here. First volley, final shot, Richelieu, versus flag.
どちらが求める側であるかは重要ではありません。こうして結ばれている絆を実感できるだけでも嬉しいです。
Yeah, no, so nothing too specific in here that would have to do, I mean, just more holy stuff, cardinal, things like that. So, anyways, yeah, so that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and learned something about the French battleships. And I'll see you on the next video.